Holy shit, it's been like 6 months. And we're back with an episode of Nobody's Listening here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel, the show on YouTube for all things Star Wars, except the past 6 months when we've been
No.
busy and with crazy shit going on with lives and haven't had a chance to actually talk about many Star Wars things. But we're still here.
I mean, what could possibly have been happening in Star Wars land in 6 months? I mean, it's one of those things that isn't going on at all
Quiet.
times.
It's
It's
all
fine.
quiet.
It's
Quiet.
fine.
So
Quiet.
we decided to do a sort of quick
Yeah.
impromptu show. We don't have really any notes or anything like that because, of course, Skeleton Crew is going to premiere, I think, on December 3rd on Disney Plus, and so I'm sure we will watch it, and maybe we'll do some episodes as it's going on. So we figured, hey, we're recording a review for Heretic. Plug to go listen to that on Outpost Unknown. So then we're like, hey, why not just do an episode of Nobody's Listening while we're together and knock something out? You know, we need that content for the channel. You know, content is key. We're probably going to have to become professional YouTubers soon, you and I. So we need to get that. We need to get that monetization.
Will they have the internet in my FEMA camp? Or
Good question. Good question. Maybe I can pull some strings and get you out. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
There we go.
So, Rachel, you are here. It's lovely to be with you again. Star Wars, the past 6 months. What did we have? The Acolyte was the big thing. We can touch a little bit on the Acolyte. We missed that, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone is wondering, like, why didn't they do episode by episode shows on the Acolyte? We might have some comments about that. We'll talk a little bit about news that has come out very, very recently about the future of Star Wars. You can't trust it because every time they announce news, everybody quits. So who knows if it's going to be true or not. But then we'll talk obviously about Skeleton Crew as well. So let's start with news before we get into our thoughts. Our thoughts on Acolyte. Our thoughts on the Acolyte. Yeah. Which is something we were very, very excited to watch. Or at least, you know, we both were very, very excited to watch. You were. Well, I was too. Like, I was excited to see where they went with it. But a couple pieces of news here. Hollywood Reporter, a known trade. They usually get the inside scoops on many, many things. Had a big article about the future of Star Wars. Now, there have been, it feels like 10,000 Star Wars movies that have been announced in the past 5 years. None of them ever come to fruition. You got what? You had the Game of Thrones guys were going to do a trilogy. They quit. You had Taika Waititi was going to make a movie. That fell through. You had Patty Jenkins was going to make a movie. That fell through. And Lucasfilm just keeps announcing all of these things. And then inevitably in 6 months, the filmmakers quit or they're fired or something. It seems to me a little bit of be a clown show in a way because I don't even understand why you would announce something. I can see if it happens once. Okay, we're announcing Patty Jenkins, and then something falls through. Got it. But this is a long. I mean, this is like 10 movies where they've made these.
Yeah, there's like a whole graveyard.
Huge announcements at D23 or Star Wars Celebration gets everybody excited, and then gone. You know, no more Mandalorian. We're going to do a Mandalorian Grogu movie. That's what we're going to do because that's what the people want to see. It's just, you know, it's been crazy. How do you feel about the state of, I guess, Star Wars at the moment in terms of like the movie side of things? Do you have any faith that any of these projects are actually going to come to fruition?
Oh, I think something will definitely come to fruition. There's no way that Disney's going to leave money on the floor forever. Whether these next announced ones are going to be the ones, I don't know. But you know what? I'm an optimist, so I'm going to say yes. My lightsaber
the big news came out. Simon Kinberg is writing and producing possibly episodes 10, 11, and 12. It's kind of unclear. Deadline was like their source said it's 10, 11, 12. Other sources said, no, that's not what they're doing. It's a whole separate thing. What it is, we don't know.
That if it is the next sequel series, I feel more confident it will happen because there is so much infrastructure and to the point where it's like compromising the series to get us into a place for those to happen as opposed to like something totally one-off. I feel less confident about a
Well, he's doing
one-off.
a trilogy apparently, so they have to have big plans. Yeah, big plans
Well,
for
you know what I
whatever
mean.
this is.
Yeah.
Now, the rumors, like after that came out, I guess I think the Hollywood Reporter came out shortly after the Deadline article, and they're basically like, these are all going to be Ray focused. Ray is going to be the main character going forward in all of this stuff, which makes sense on one hand because that's kind of like the main character of the sequel trilogy. It makes sense that she would restart the Jedi Order, and still be around at that time. Just like Luke Skywalker was around in the worst way possible in the sequel trilogy, she would still be around. Daisy Ridley's a young woman. She'll be around for the next 40, 50 years, probably doing Star Wars stuff at some point. Do you feel like that's where they should focus? Two questions. Do you think they should focus on Rey as the main kind of central character around a new trilogy? And then two, do you think that's what fans actually want?
Okay, I think there are
Right.
two very different answers there. I personally think they fumbled the bag on an incredible character, and I think there is a very good chance that our favorite custodian, our favorite Star Wars janitor, is going to come clean it up because I think it's important to the larger timeline as well. So I would love to see them, go back and fix an injustice in history and give us a really great, satisfying arc for Rey that is completely divorced from an
Yeah.
absurd love story. That's what I would love to see. Me personally. Do I think that the most toxic fandom on the planet wants stories about Rey? I do
I
not.
do, because I like the
I
character
do
of
not.
Rey a lot.
I yes, yes.
Yeah.
You're one of the good ones,
I like the
Matthew. You're one of
character
the
of
good
Rey.
ones.
Like I've said this before. I don't give a shit about she can suddenly just do everything. Like fucking Luke Skywalker is blasting or blocking blaster bolts after like
Welcome to
one
fantasy.
time he gets shot. It says ow. Just
Yeah.
feel it. Boom, he's blocking blaster bolts. I don't care about any of that. I think it's all stupid. I do think she was given a disservice. That
Yeah.
character was
It's
given a
explicit.
huge
It's fine.
disservice. Kylo Ren should have stayed evil all the way through the fucking thing. That's how it should. There is no. There does not need to be a redemption. I mean, they botched the whole sequel trilogy. I think if you were to ask, other than kids, because I think the sequel trilogy is a big gateway into Star Wars for children, right? And I think Sam Witwer had
Mhm.
an interview recently with Katie Sackhoff. Katie Sackhoff, by the way, does a really cool YouTube sort of like podcast channel where she interviews all kinds of people. Like has interviewed a bunch of her co-stars from Battlestar Galactica, from Star Wars, and it's really really good. And she was talking to Sam Witwer, and basically, well, what do you think of the sequel trilogy? How will that people ultimately land? He's like, it's going to take 10 or 20 years. If in 20 years, the people who grew up with it are like, that sucked. I hated it. The verdict is then sealed. Like the sequel trilogy was bought. Like just like the
Yeah,
prequels,
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
hated the prequels, hated them, and now they're beloved. I would argue. Everyone acknowledges the faults that they have, but everyone's like, George Lucas
Mhm.
kind of predicting the future a little bit. Like George, a lot of the themes, a lot of the stuff going on in those prequels seems eerily similar to things that might relate to modern day. And a lot of those, even though,
Mhm. This is
yeah,
how democracy
yeah,
dies with
yeah, it's a great line.
thunderous
I've seen
applause.
memes for that all over the place. And so I think there's a whole generation that the sequels that got people into Star Wars. And those people, those kids are going to love the sequel trilogy, just like, kids love the prequel
Yeah.
trilogy and we love the original trilogy. Um, I want to see more stories with Ray. I want to see continuation of that. And I do want them to sort of like retcon or do something with Ray that sort of redeems that character in the eyes of many fans because it can be done. You get a Tony Gilroy writing some
Yeah.
shit for this. Guess what? That character is going to be redeemed, and people are going to look at that character in a completely different way than they did before. It takes a good writer. Now, is Simon Kinberg that guy? I don't know.
What is his bona fides? Wasn't he involved with like
Yes,
Clone
he
Wars
sort
or
of
Rebel? What I don't
co-created
remember what.
Rebels with Dave Filoni. Like he's credited that. Of course, he also like
Promising.
produced the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie. He did a lot of the Fox X-Men
Ooh.
stuff. I think he did The Last Stand. I don't know if he directed it or something, but it was awful. So it's like this guy, he did The Martian, which is good, but then he does these other things that are horrible. So it's just kind of like, you don't know. You have no idea. And
Okay.
if I was running
Okay.
Lucasfilm, which I'm not, I would have just backed up a dump truck of money to Tony Gilroy and said, write write a trilogy of movies using, using Ray. Just write it. Just do it. I don't care how much money. I don't care if he's like, give me $100 million. Just fucking do it, because we know it's going to be quality. I don't know if this is going to be quality. I really don't. And what I fear is going to happen here is the movies. This fandom hates the character of Ray so much. They hate this character. Yeah, they hate
I
this
wonder
character so
why.
much that
Let's
they're going to be looking
see.
for anything in these movies that's bad. Anything, and they will laser focus on that, and they will make the whole movie about that and how terrible she is, and nobody wants to see a movie with
Yeah.
her. I just don't want that to happen. So I don't know. I'm of two minds about it. I'm like, I want to see that, but I don't necessarily need to maybe see that right now. Like, I think they need to hit a couple movies out of the park, get people back on board, and then be like, all right, give me
hmm
that Rey trilogy as she's building up the new Jedi Order or something.
I mean, but what we're essentially saying is let's get goodwill by focusing
I don't
on
think it
male
needs to be
characters
male
before we
characters.
can. You really think if we focus on a new female character that the reaction would be exactly the same as if it were Ray? Because every single like the bar to get over the fandom's hate if you lead with a female character is so freaking high. And it's honestly, I think what part of what the problem was with Marvel, which I don't want to like get into a whole thing, but by being like, oh, let's save all of our female origin stories for phase
Yeah,
19. By the time we get there, everybody has origin fatigue
yeah.
and they're fucked. So I kind of feel like if you're gonna tell a Ray story, let's just do it. Like pull the band-aid off, make something incredible, make the haters eat it. Period.
How about this wild idea? Make a movie starring Sebastian Stan as Luke, but the main character of the
Yes.
movie is not Luke Skywalker. It's whoever's going to play Mara Jade, and it's sort of like her journey. Boom, right? Because
Okay.
Mara
Okay.
Jade
All
is
right,
a
I'm in.
female character in Star Wars that is very beloved. And I think if you were to
Mhm.
take sort
Mhm.
of a Legends universe character, a female character, strong female character, very dynamic character, lots of different layers, and you were to focus a story, maybe, I don't know if you would do a whole trilogy, but at least something with her, whether it's a TV show, maybe that's a better place for it to start, where you can actually like have people spend more time with this character over a couple different seasons, and then show the fandom, see, we can do strong female characters that you fucking dig and enjoy. We can make that happen. That would lessen the immediacy of people automatically dismissing a Ray movie. Like, because people are going to dismiss it out of hand
You know what?
from the beginning. You know they will.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean yes, but honestly, they dismiss everything out of hand. Like literally everything. But I agree with you and honestly what I would like I part of why I like this idea is I think everyone keeps waiting for Mara Jade to be this big
Yeah.
stunt moment. You know what I mean? And I would rather actually, like you said, instead of having it be like a moment where someone pulls off a helmet and they have red hair underneath, that we actually get to know her. I'm thinking about like I can't remember. I was trying to quickly Google it because I'm my brain is garbage, but I can't remember the name of the pirate that she's
Oh
running
yeah.
around with in Heir to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Empire. But come on,
Yeah.
give me that series. I would love to see them like buccaneering around space. That would be incredible. And she could be badass and she could be angry and then we could I would be willing to buy into a love story with if it was
Well, see,
Sebastian Stan
I mean, we
and
can eventually, maybe this
Skywalker.
this goes into sort of a side conversation that we don't need to get into it right now, but like, I watched The Acolyte. Spoiler: I hated it. I'm a Star Wars fan. I hated that show for many different reasons. But how cool would it have been if The Acolyte had been focused on Mara Jade. And we start the Acolyte with her, whether, falling to the dark side. Like season 1 is her slowly falling to the dark side. She has a master or whatever, but we don't even know what time period that this takes place in. We have no fucking clue. And as, season 2, season 3 comes along, then at some point you realize, like, what is she being trained for? She's questioning, what am I being trained for? And her master, whoever it is, because they'd have to change canon obviously a little bit to make that all fit. What is going on? Like, what are you training me for? And then boom, like the end of season 2 is like she's given orders to go to some planet or whatever, and she shows up and whatever, and then boom, out walks Luke Skywalker or something like that. And people are like, holy fucking shit. So you have 2 seasons, maybe there are 8 episodes, you have 16 episodes to follow this woman all the way through all the conflicted feelings she has, the reasons why she decides to turn to the dark side in the first place, and then boom, people are hit with Luke Skywalker. Now we know how this story ends, right? She's eventually going to choose Luke and go to light side, but then you have season 3 where it's her and conflict, and people are going to fucking love that, right? They're going to love that show. Why they don't do something like that, I don't fucking know. There are plenty of strong female characters in Star Wars. Like, everyone loves Princess Leia, right? Princess Leia is a strong female character. Even the toxic fanboys, the majority of them will say, we like Princess Leia. I mean, if you don't like Princess Leia, there's something wrong with you. Like, there's something wrong with you. You're not wired right. And so there's plenty of strong. Like, look at all the strong female characters on Andor. Oh my God, they're everywhere. And so, and Andor, of course, that's another news item. April 22nd, season 2. I'm going to be very, very interested to see what the ratings are on season 2, because they were low on season 1, right? No one gave a shit about Andor. There's like our good buddy Steve. Andor? I don't want to see about a show about Andor. I'm like, look, man. And then Steve was telling us, it's like, oh, well, geez, I wonder how season 2 ends. I wonder if he dies. I'm like, that's not the fucking point of that show. Like, anybody who watches that show with any sort of eyeballs know that story is not about whether Andor is going to live or die at the end of the series. It's about the Empire, the oppression, and a small group of people being like figuring out how to rise up against them and overthrow them. And all of the other characters, I'm invested. I don't know what happens to them. I don't want them all to die, So it's just because it's called Andor. Yeah, they're early prediction from me. Andor is going to kill Luthen. I think Andor is going to kill Luthen. I think something's going to happen where whether or not Luthen starts getting, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he's getting overly ambitious. Luthen's going to be doing something that's going to threaten the rebellion somehow, whether he realizes he's doing it or not, and Andor's going to have to take him out. I feel like that's going to happen.
Interesting. I mean, I think Andor is his radicalization is going to continue, but I think there is something where there is, like, morality is there. I think Luthen's sense of morality is far muddier, murkier, more sociopathic than what Andor's will be. Just like knowing Andor's origin story, knowing his connection to Marva, like all of those kinds of things. So I could see that being a place of tension where, like, Luthen decides something is for the greater good that goes against Andor's moral code.
At the beginning of Rogue One, Andor straight up kills the dude. Remember when he just boom, like shoots him in the back or something and just straight up murders him. So by the time we get to Rogue One, Andor is already basically completely radicalized and in kind of like the Luthen sense, in a way, just very cutthroat. And I'm just going to do this. But I think, God, wouldn't it be amazing if the rug was pulled out from under us and Luthen was like a double agent for the Empire or something? But just imagine, like, the storytelling.
I don't want it,
but just imagine the storytelling sort of stuff and Tony Gilroy I trust.
It'll undercut his
It will.
speech, though. It'll undercut one of the greatest
It's
monologues
good.
I've ever
Yeah.
seen.
No,
And
it's
that
great.
sounds like hyperbole. I will sometimes, seriously, I'm such a dork. I will sometimes, like, if I need a little dopamine bump, I
It's
will
good.
watch
It's
that
great.
on
I think I
YouTube.
posted in the chat room the other day. I was like, I
That
was just
and
like, here you
One
go.
Way Out.
Here's a bit. So yeah. So yeah, Andor
Yeah,
is coming out just what 4 months, 5 months. Can't wait. And
you
there's
steal my heart.
12
Yeah,
episodes, I think.
cannot wait.
So I'm sure we will be doing nobody's listening episodes for each one of those.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, so
You're gonna watch the light go out of our eyes if it's not good.
if
We're gonna
if it's
die.
bad, I'm gonna be like, I'm just like, I'm giving up on 2025 entirely. I'm like, I am holding out hope that there's still good stuff to experience in 2025. But
Yeah.
if that show is bad, if it falls on its face in season two, I'm gonna be inconsolable. It's gonna be
Mm.
rough. It's gonna be rough. So
Well, I'm gonna again lightsaber half full. It's gonna be great, and then we're gonna like really hurt ourselves by finishing it all off with our rewatch of Rogue
I'm
One.
actually looking forward to rewatching Rogue One. There are rumors that they're going to do an extended director's
Me
cut
too.
of Rogue One as like a thing to sort of like with extra scenes and
Give
stuff
it
like
to
that in
mommy.
order to sort of cap
Yeah.
that whole thing. Because
I hope they put in some of the cool shit
oh
from the
yeah,
trailer.
yeah,
That's my petition. I want to see Jane Urso in that weird tunnel. I want to
there you
see
go.
AT-ATs on
Well,
the
that's the
beach,
thing.
storming the
Like Jin
beach.
Urso, another
Gimme,
strong female
gimme.
lead in a Star Wars movie. I don't. I mean, I'm sure the rhetoric is out there.
I want her to say, I rebel.
Yeah,
I want her to say, I rebel. That was in the
that's true.
trailer. It was not in the
Yeah.
movie. It was infuriating.
But I'm curious, like I don't hear any of these toxic people saying like we hate Rogue One because Jin Urso was the lead in it. You hear about Daisy Ridley and as Rey, but you don't really hear it that much. At least I haven't heard with Rogue One. So I don't know. I think strong female characters can be done. They are currently being done. You could watch any of Dave Filoni's stuff to see strong female characters everywhere. And I wonder if Dave Filoni's mystery movie, whatever that's going to be, maybe he can bring some strong female characters into the fold. I don't know, but it can be done. But I think maybe they should set the stage before they just jump in with a bunch of Ray stuff because I know it's just going to get. It's going to be terrible to be a Star Wars fan again. Can you imagine, like, oh, Ray's in these three movies and these other cameos and these other three movies, and then people can be like, for the next 15 years, all we're getting is
Yeah.
Ray stuff, and people are still so pissed off about that sequel trilogy. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, I think also maybe like let one
Yep.
person tell the full arc so that everybody's not playing
Yeah.
cleanup
Yeah.
all the
For
time.
sure.
That would be
For
good
sure.
too.
So, Simon Kinberg may or may not be doing these Ray movies. There may or may not be more Ray movies. Who knows with Lucasfilm? They announce it and then it never happens. So, apparently, Patty Jenkins stuff is still on the table. So maybe we will get Patty Jenkins movie. Maybe
I wanted that. I wanted that Rogue Squadron movie. I wanted like Star Wars meets Top Gun
has
real,
there
real bad.
been a Star Wars movie in the theaters since Rise of Skywalker? When was that? It was like
No,
2019 or some shit. That's like 5 years.
a long time. Everything has been invested into the Disney Plus series, and that's why. I mean, I really need them to like chill out with the setting up of the movies, please. Just like let them be their own
Yeah,
thing. It's okay. It's okay. We can fill it in. We got it. Like we
I
got it.
would
We
have.
don't need you to
Yeah, I would
spoon
have
feed
loved
every
to have
little
been a
thing to me.
fly in the wall when Bob Iger came back to Disney and was going to all the different divisions and talking to the people that are running it. And he has that first meeting with Kathleen Kennedy, and he's like, "Why have there been no Star Wars movies in the theaters? We spent $4 billion for this. Why are there none?" And I would wonder how Kathleen Kennedy would be able to justify that. Like, years have gone by with no Star Wars movies, and Marvel's throwing shit out all the time. Can you imagine?
I mean, that
Well,
might be the argument for why there's
yeah,
no
but
Star
but
Wars
look at like
movies.
Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, but look at
Ant-Man
Deadpool and
3.
Wolverine.
Yeah,
Announce a Darth Vader movie.
yeah,
Get some fucking awesome writer and do a Darth Vader movie right after the events of Revenge of the Sith when he's out hunting the Jedi and he's still conflicted about all these things. Do a fucking Darth Vader movie that would make $1 billion. $1 billion. So you
yeah,
can
yeah.
they want.
Like all the Hayden Christensen simps would be
Oh
like
yeah,
in
I mean
heaven.
they could do so much, but I digress. So we got Andor, that news. We got maybe a new trilogy of Star Wars movies with Simon Kinberg. Let's touch briefly on the Acolyte. You have not seen the whole series, which I'm very disappointed with. I watched this series and I was kind of, and again, I love almost everything Star Wars. It's hard for me to be like I hate a Star Wars property. I love this franchise to my core. This was probably for me. This was the worst Star Wars thing I have seen, probably since the Ewok movies in the '80s, Caravan of Courage. I think I like the Star Wars Holiday Special better than the Acolyte. I'm gonna be 100%,
Oh
100%,
no,
and I'll tell you
no,
why. The
no,
Star Wars Holiday
no.
Special has charm to it. It's horrible. I'm not saying it's not horrible. But I remember being like, oh, introduction of Boba Fett. You get to see. It's terrible. Don't get me wrong. It's bad.
I was like traumatized. I also made the mistake. I thought it was like a half hour long. I had like 102-degree temperature. I thought it was going
Oh
to be a
no.
half hour long.
Yeah.
It's so long, and it is a fever dream
Oh
when you're
yeah.
not on death's door.
Like Lumpy,
Like
Lumpy the Wookie.
I actually physically Lumpy and his weird like masturbatorium, like
It
it
has
was
charm and it's funny.
like
It's funny for all the
poor.
wrong reasons, but
Oh, like Carrie Fisher is so
there's
fucking
more
good,
entertainment value
and
of the holiday special than there is in the Acolyte.
it actually makes my skin crawl when I think about it. Like I can feel how
We're going to
sick
have to
my
watch
body
that.
was while
See,
I
I'm
watched
disappointed
that
because I'm going
movie.
back to Vancouver on the 21st. On the
No.
20th, the theater in Vancouver is showing the Star Wars Holiday Special, so I'm gonna miss. I could have seen it in the theaters.
Change your
Um,
flight. Change your
so
flight.
so the Acolyte to me was absurd. I mean, I don't even know like the words. I was so angry watching this show. Nothing made any sense. These characters were completely underdeveloped, ham-fisted relationships that characters say one thing in 30 seconds before, 30 seconds later they do something completely different. I was shocked at how bad the writing was in this show. Shocked how bad the writing was in this show. And who was the showrunner of this? I can't remember. Leslie Headland. Now, I'd never
Leslie
seen
Headland.
anything by Leslie Headland before. I'd never seen Russian Doll or anything like that. This show was so bad
Excellent.
that I was like, you know what? I'm done with Leslie Headland. Like, I'm not even gonna seek out anything because I was so pissed off about this show and the horrible, horrible shit that they did in this. That man, I couldn't believe how I felt. I could not believe how I felt watching this, and it wasn't just me. I watched it with Alyssa, and she was watching this, and she is like, "This is." She was sitting there, and she usually doesn't say like a whole lot of stuff about these things we watch, and she goes, "This is fucking awful," and I'm like, "It is fucking awful," and I don't understand how they spent $250 million on it because it looks like a CW show. It looks cheap. It feels cheap. Carrie Ann Moss, she's in it for like two scenes, and there's this sequence. I don't know if you got to this one in your thing where everyone makes fun of like the power of one, the power of many, the weird dances, the witches, and stuff like that. It just comes across as goofy. It sounds goofy. But there's a moment in this series where you're like, okay, well, that's got to mean something. Like the power of one, the power of many, it's got to mean something. And then Carrie Ann Moss shows up after some shit's gone down. Jedi's are dead. And she decides, in her infinite Jedi wisdom, to just think real hard and murder this entire coven of witches and then cover it up. Now, I'm going to spoil something for you, Rachel, because I told you that if they do one thing in this show, everyone's going to fucking hate this show, and for good reason. So there's shenanigans that occur. There's a specific character. God, was it Vestra? Vestra, was that her name? I can't remember exactly this.
Is she the sort of
She's
like
the
lizardy
bald
girl?
green girl. No,
And or
bald
well,
green
she's
girl.
like white.
I can't remember her name.
Yeah,
Vanessa.
yeah. Leslie
Oh
Headland,
man,
IRL.
awful actress. This was not the role. This was not the role for her. This was not. She
I
might
think
be a
I
great
did
office.
miss
She
it.
was not good in this.
Oh no.
And there's a whole backstabbing thing. Like, okay, she's really a bad guy. Blah blah. And I'm watching the last episode, and I'm like, they're gonna fucking do it. They're gonna fucking do it, aren't they? They're gonna fucking Leslie Headland's gonna do this whole cover up, right? The Jedi have to cover up all the shit that's going down with the Sith, whatever. And this character walks through a door, and I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, don't you fucking pan down. Don't you fucking pan down. Camera pans down to Yoda, and then the show ends. And I'm just like, are you trying to tell me that Yoda knew about all of this shit went down and like he's involved in the cover up of all these things that I'm just like I couldn't take it. I just couldn't take it. And I was like the way that this whole show is presented, the characters, the motivations, the writing of it, I could not believe this got greenlit. I could not believe I couldn't find I I like the fight scenes. The fight scene choreography was great. And that's all I can say about this show. That's all I can say. So I hated the Acolyte, and I was very happy when it was when it was canceled and they weren't going to bring it back. I don't want Dave Filoni to go do cleanup on this. This is an entire show where I'm just going to delete it. Didn't happen. Not canon in my view. None of this is canon. So eventually, Rachel, you will probably watch the final 4 episodes of this, and I hope you do, and you can give me your feelings because you liked the first 4. You watched 4 of them, right? You like them?
I did.
What'd you like about
I
them?
did. But I also, I mean, I liked the characters. I liked the setting. I was intrigued where it was going. I am a big, huge Amanda Stenberg fan, and I was like, 2 Amanda Stenbergs? Excellent. I like this twice as much now. Um, yeah, I don't know. I was very into the witches and the way that they like procreated, all of that kind of stuff I thought was really I was into the world building that was happening and intrigued by the mystery.
Weird.
I don't know.
I,
I just was having a
I
good
know it's
time.
fine.
I don't know what to
If you
tell
liked
you.
it, you
It's
liked it.
at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
if
it's
you liked it, you liked
subjective.
it.
You
I
know
think
what I
what's
mean?
good, it's like we
Yeah.
can't always just agree on everything, and I think we're just kind of polar
Yeah.
opposites here.
Yeah. Usually though, like we disagree but like have overlap. It's very strange that like we this is a
Oh, I
very different
hated
opinions we share.
everything about this show and the writing of the show and how these characters were
Mm,
presented. I did not
mm,
like Amanda Sten either of the characters. Who the roles that she was playing. I'm like, this is all so
mhm,
dumb. Like all these people are making the dumbest decisions possible. Like everything you could possibly do. And we Steve. So we finally got him to watch Andor, and he watched. Now Steve, what I value about Steve is he might go on a preconceived notion of what he's going to see, but he is really good at picking out really stupid shit decisions that characters do in writing. And he was watching this stuff, and he was like, the decisions that are made every step of the way make no logical sense. There's an episode where one Amanda Stenberg's character is like, hey, you know what? She basically ties up this dude who we find out, of course, is the secret Sith because he's the only other like character in her life on the show. So
yeah.
fucking
I do
simple. It's
know
like,
this.
geez,
Yeah.
what a twist. We didn't see that coming. But she like It's like, you know what? I'm gonna go tell the fucking Jedi. I'm gonna go tell the Jedi everything, and I'm gonna turn myself in. And then, okay,
That's the
and
last
then
of what I saw.
literally
Yeah.
3 minutes in the same episode, like she is fighting the Jedi and not allowing them, not saying, "I'm sorry, please take me in," and then kills. Was it Jackie? Or was the name of the Daphne Keen's character, who's
Oh
barely in the
yeah.
series at
Uh,
all? She's
Oh really?
No,
Okay,
she
I didn't
dies. She
see that.
dies.
Okay.
She's
Wow.
dead right there at the end.
Really?
She just dies, and it's over. And I'm just like all these cool characters that I want to know more about, they're dead. The other
Huh.
guy, God, what was his? I don't even remember the names of these characters. That's how forgettable these characters were to me. Did they just die immediately? And then like the last four episodes has nothing to do with anything at all. And it becomes this. There's a sequence. Oh my god! You know what my stance on with like weird sex stuff in this kind of media for me, right? Like I for comic books, for example,
Yeah.
I don't need to see
Yeah.
Spider-Man. I don't need to
Yeah.
see
Crude
Spider-Man banging
Matthew.
Mary Jane.
Yeah.
I just don't. We don't need it. It's not necessary for anything. There is this sequence was a Sith dick. So basically the guy playing the Sith Lord,
Yeah. Oh, the thirst
yeah,
was strong for
he's
him.
like, I'm gonna
I'm
get
aware of
naked.
that.
He knows she's watching him. I'm gonna get naked.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna go swim
Yep.
around, and she's like
Uh-huh.
googly eyed at this guy who literally just murdered all of her friends. Like literally 10 minutes before in the series timeline, he murdered all of her friends. Um, and then he comes out of the water and stands in front of her, and I guess she's just so entranced by the Sith dick that she's going to be okay with all of it. And I'm just like, this is so fucking stupid.
This
I'm
dick
like,
will make
this
you
this is
sick.
so fucking stupid. Like all of the decisions that these characters are doing are so stupid, and I hated it, and I'm glad it's gone. Um, they do this. Yeah, yeah, I
You
do
feel
feel
better?
better. I like to be able to vent about this thing. They do this one thing, spoiler, at the very last episode, you get your one shot of Darth Plagueis stepping out of a cave looking, and we'll never
Mhm.
hear about that again. Why? Because the show's been canceled and no one
Oh.
wants to know any more about it. So, Acolyte, thumbs down. Fuck that show. I gotta be honest. Didn't like it, Rachel. I apologize.
I wish you would be a little
Yeah,
more clear
yeah.
about it, like,
Hold on. Give me another
make your
10 more minutes.
case.
Let's talk
Oh,
about something that we hope is good. So the
no.
Acolyte crashed and burned. It was canceled. Everybody hated it. Well, most people hated it. Now we have,
It has a pretty strong, like, there's actually a decent
and
sized fan base
I
for it, but
question
yeah.
I question the reasoning of that. I
Potentially.
would love to have a debate with someone who is a diehard fan of that. Maybe you could set that up. Maybe that could be the first debate. Like we could have
Okay.
somebody on here, and yes,
On the
and then we can
Advocast.
debate about the stupidity of that show. But so
TM, by the way, if anybody's listening, that is TM.
yes,
Nobody can steal that idea.
so we have a new Star Wars show coming out in what, like 3 weeks. Skeleton Crew, created by John
Yeah,
Watts. John Watts, of
yeah.
course, probably most notable. He did the last three Marvel Spider-Man movies. So I think he's very well regarded. I
Mhm.
think people are very, they're like, okay, this is a good creator, so we're cautiously optimistic he'll be able to do
Yeah,
something good. You watched the trailer what for the first time today, or have you seen twice? Okay,
twice.
tell
Yeah,
tell
right
us
before the show.
set up what overview of the trailer. What is it basically about, and then what your thoughts are on the trailer.
Okay, my understanding is that it's about a kid who finds something in the woods. I think it may be a ship we come to see, something he isn't supposed to find. And he, with a group of his friends, for unknown reasons, ends up taking off, probably because like there's sort of like a domineering dad. And maybe accidentally goes into hyperspace and needs to find his way home. They find an ally in sort of a what appears to be sort of a space swashbuckler played by Jude Law, who agrees to help them get back home. And
Yeah,
space shenanigans ensue,
Yeah. I
would be
think they
my guess.
mentioned pirates in the trailer, so they're definitely being
Oh, yeah.
hunted down
Yes.
by pirates. What'd you think of
Arr.
the trailer?
Got it.
Okay, thanks everybody. See you next time. Nobody's listening.
No, I mean, I'll be honest. If I didn't kind of know the person behind, like John Watts is one of those directors that I'm interested in. Like we love those Spider-Man movies. They are far better than they have any business being. And I really love his like child eating
I still
clown
haven't
movie
seen that.
Clown. I would
Yeah.
highly recommend for horror. That movie is awesome and so mean. So there is some irony that he's going off to make the sort of like Amblin-esque version of Star Wars. I think like baby Rachel would have been so into this. Um and I love pirates. I don't know, man. If it was not, I'm gonna give it a shot. If I just like in a vacuum, I watched this trailer, I'd be like, man, I'm way too fucking
Yeah.
big for this, and I probably would never watch it. But because it's Star Wars,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a
This
shot.
is
What about you?
definitely directed towards like the 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old demographic is what it feels like. It's got a very Goonies
Yeah,
feel.
yeah,
But I like Goonies as a kid,
mm,
and I like Goonies as an adult. So I guess it all depends on how it's portrayed. Like, is it really goofy, like kid
yeah,
comedy type stuff, or is there kind of enough there for adults to feel like I'm invested in what's going
yeah,
on? I think I hated the way they did the music for this. The music in the trailer just didn't work for me at all. It felt like this weird modern thing. I'm always very taken aback
yeah,
whenever they play like kind of like a modern music stuff with Star Wars. I'm just so like it's
yeah. Give me
yeah,
that
it's got to
score.
be
Give
that
me
John
John
Williams esque
Williams.
Kevin
Yeah,
Kiner sort of like orchestral sort of thing. Yeah,
epic orchestral.
feels
Yes,
weird and
yes, I
off-putting,
totally
a
agree.
strange choice, but then Star Wars has been in a lot of strange choices lately that I don't quite understand. And so, yeah, you don't really get much of a story in this. It's like I don't feel like the trailer really sells you on what it's about, other than kids lost in space trying to get home. Um, I I'll watch
Yeah,
it. I will I will watch it, but
yeah.
it
It feels
feels very kiddie. And I would imagine these
yeah.
are going to be 30-minute episodes.
Yes.
Like these are probably again very short attention
Oh
span,
yeah,
kids sort of
yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah.
I'm interested in Jude Law. There were some rumors that this was going to cross over with Ahsoka and the Mandalorian, sort of like that. This takes place in that time frame.
Oh dear
Way
God.
back, gosh, I want to say it was a year ago or so, there was a rumor that came out, a leak, and who knows if the insider leak is accurate or whatnot. But of course, at the end of Ahsoka season two, they're in was it Peridia, and whatever that galaxy. They're basically lost,
Mhm.
and these kids are lost as well.
Yeah.
And at some point, there's going to be some sort of crossover sort of
Oh,
thing that happens. That was a
I
leak, and that
see
was
that.
way before this
Mhm.
was even filmed. Whether or not that's true, I don't know.
Mm.
But of course, the same pirate that was in season three of Mandalorian, when they go to Grief's, the planet that he's on, whatever, is in this as well.
Mhm.
So it's got to be in that general time
Yeah.
period. I don't, I'm
Mhm.
not super excited for this. I'm just not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
no.
glad I'm not just
A lot of
being a
hating on
hater.
this episode.
Yeah, it didn't. You know what it reminded me a little bit of? Like, it could easily have been a commercial or like like some sort of marketing thing for Star Wars
Oh,
Land.
yeah.
Like, you go and you're a part of it. Like, that's kind of what it looked like to me. Like, it was a family at or like kids at Star Wars having this experience, and you're in the movie. It
Yeah.
it had kind of that flavor to me, but we'll see. John Watts makes good films. We know that he's capable of making fun, epic films that have, a real sense of humor to them. And I think that if this is really funny, that's going to save it a lot. When I think though of things like Goonies and stuff from our childhoods, it was a darker, like things were a little bit darker and more adult. And the ideas in Goonies, they have this kind of, adventure, but there's this like economic housing
Yeah.
issue that underlies it. So I hope that there is some of that in this. If it really wants to have an Amblin feeling, there's a sense of melancholy to those
Yeah.
films as well. And if this one is a wackadoo adventure with kids, like even I don't know what the race of the elephant
Oh, yeah,
kind of
like,
person is, the
gosh, I can't remember. Max Rebo.
Max
Max Rebo's thing, yeah.
Rebo or whatever. Yes, like that. Even I was just kind of like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
cringe a little bit," but we'll see. We'll see it in context. It's just a trailer. We know
Yeah.
trailers lie to us
John Watts is a good
all the
filmmaker.
time.
And you know who
So
else is a really fucking great filmmaker
yes,
who knocked it out of the park? Ryan
Leslie
Johnson.
Headland.
He was
Oh
great.
no,
He
sorry.
knocked it out of the park, right? Fucking Ryan Johnson. Hopefully there is a good story here somewhere. But we shall see as of December 3rd. Ladies and gentlemen,
Cool.
that's it.
That's awesome.
Nobody's listening.
Cool.
That's another episode. We will check
Yep.
out Skeleton Crew, and I don't know if we'll do it episode by episode. Probably not. But we might come back for a wrap-up show after we've watched it all, if we watch it all. I mean, I hate watched The Acolyte all the way through the end, so I'm sure I'm going to watch this all the way through to the end. Rachel, you want to take us out? Let you have the final word.
Sure. Thanks everybody for not listening. I think you should go and watch The Acolyte and form your own opinion. If you like it, there's no shame in that. It's okay. You will find love and support here. Even though I haven't finished it, I'm willing to take your feelings into account. And everybody watch Skeleton Crew. Let's do it. Let's go on this adventure. Let's swashbuckle away.
Pirates.